Hi, and welcome to Toni Time. Well, I want to thank you for tuning in again. Get your coffee, depending on what time of day it is. Go get your cocktail. And we have a family guest back again. Jen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be back.
And if you remember, we did a show last year, Boots to Roots. And to give you a recap, would you tell the audience again just highlights so they know what we're doing?
Yeah. So Boots to Roots is an organization. We were established as a 501c3 in May of 2016. Boots to Roots' mission is bridging the gap from serving our country to strengthening Maine communities. And we do that by providing employment search and preparation, connecting transitioning military members with needed transition services, anything in the community from a realtor to trying to find a good school for their kids, to veteran services, to medical referrals, not referrals, but to the organizations. And then we have a peer mentoring. Our audience is active duty military who are planning to transition to Maine.
Okay.
So that is who we are working with, because there's a real gap in working with active duty people who are planning to transition to Maine. Maine is a very National Guard centric state. We have a huge National Guard presence here and very supportive veteran community, very supportive National Guards community. But if you're coming off of active duty and you're not plugged into that initially, it can take you a while when you get back to get plugged in. And if you start your job search without sort of the benefit of having a previous network, it can take you a significantly long time to get hired. Well, and so we're trying to prep people, ideally a year before they come back, get them set up with a self-assessment, figure out kind of where they really want to focus their search if they're not sure, do resume preparation with them. Help them translate their resume into a resume that a civilian employer can read and clearly understand how that person can benefit their company or their organization. And then the peer mentoring is really, we have peer mentors who have served on active duty, who have recently separated or retired within the last 5 years, who have a recency of transition experience, so that they can, they've been there, done that, they are fully employed and stabilized and so forth. And so the person who is transitioning, that we call teammate, we don't call our folks clients, we call them teammates. That teammate has a peer mentor, sort of boots on the ground here in Maine, sort of doing legwork and doing networking for them.
Wow.
We'll do interview prep for the folks. So the idea is that they can hit the ground running when they get back to Maine, and be hired within 2 months of arriving in Maine.
That's great.
That's one of the program goals. The other program goal is that they'll have whatever, be hooked up with whatever connections that they need within or during their transition and once they get to Maine, and then that they remain employed in their first job post-military for at least a year. So
now do they call you, reach out to you, or?
Yeah, they have to reach out to us. There's no way for us to get it.
I would think,
There's no way for us to get the information on who's transitioning. And so, the word has tremendously gotten out in just, almost 2 years. We've been a 501c3. But as time goes on and the word gets out more, we'll have more folks reaching out to us. We utilize the website, Facebook, Instagram, other organizations sharing our Facebook posts, which is how a lot of people hear about us. Word of mouth. As we're getting the word out throughout Maine, people are spreading that word to their sons or daughters or friends who are in the military currently and then planning to transition. Also, the career centers in the state of Maine. There's an organization called the Maine Military and Community Network, which is a large network of veterans organizations and really any citizens that have a vested interest in helping veterans. And we're sort of all connected through meetings every couple of months. And the Career Center vet representatives, they have referred about 6 people to us. And because when people are coming off of active duty, there's a transition program. And so there's about a week-long transition course that the Federal Department of Labor instructor will administer at all the different bases that are out there. And they teach basics about resumes and interview and dress for success and here's VA benefits and so forth. it's a good program, there's good
Yeah.
information, but it's really just scratching the surface. But what that federal Department of Labor person will often tell people is contact the Career Center in your state. So folks will contact the Career Center in the state, or at least in the state of Maine, and the vet reps are great here. You know, they'll send information and email them off, but they really can't do any real personalized help and attention and preparation until that person is physically back in Maine. So they will refer the folks to us. We'll work with them and do all the prep, and then you know, but they're keeping in touch. They're following the main job link.
Yeah.
The career centers are you know, helping us with various different programs to help out the teammates, and then when they get back, we tell them go meet with the veterans rep if they haven't been employed already, so that we're all working together in a full court press to try to, you know, help that person facilitate employment quickly.
The Career Center, now explain that a little bit more. I mean, because when people think of that, you know, they're thinking the temp jobs, they're thinking little companies, but you're talking within the military?
No, I'm talking about the Maine Department of Labor Career Centers
Okay.
here in the state of Maine.
All right.
Here in the state of
Okay.
Maine, sorry.
No, I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
You know, because I know people are going to think, well, how can they do this or that? So,
No, it's the career centers in the state of Maine.
okay, great. Now, do you have a story of someone, family or whatever, that got out and how you helped them?
We have a few stories, but I'll tell you one that I like because it sort of runs the whole spectrum of what we're trying to do. We had a gentleman who was in the Army for 10 years, and he reached out to us, I want to say, I think about 4 or 5 months prior to him separating. And he and his wife have a small child, and he decided it was time for them to, you know, time for him to raise his daughter someplace where they were stabilized, and they wanted to come back to Maine because they have family in Maine. So he reached out to us about 4 or 5 months out. We worked with him on a brief self-assessment evaluation just to kind of see, you know, where he might want to focus. He kind of knew where he wanted to focus, so it was a little bit easier. So we worked on his resume with him and cover letter, and he was looking for jobs at the same time. And I send out, the Career Center will send out a weekly, or a daily, excuse me, job bundle. The Career Center in Brunswick sends that out, and it's a whole list of jobs every day that he gets from various different places. It's not all the jobs that are available in Maine, but it's a conglomeration of things he puts together every day. It's a helpful thing to go through for folks to check. So this teammate was, you know, going through those and looking in other areas. And one day I was looking online and I saw this job at a company in southern Maine, and he saw the same thing, and I emailed him. We almost emailed at the same time, and I said, this is a job that you're very qualified for and you ought to put in for that. So he said, yeah. So he was working on his resume for that, and we'd go back and forth to make sure he tailored it for that particular job description.
Right.
And come to find out, I had been to a career fair about 3 months earlier where this company was represented. And sometimes what we'll do in Boots to Roots is some of the bigger job fairs, we will pass that information off to our teammates and say, take a look at the companies that are going to be here. And if you are interested in one of those companies, go online to see if they've got an opening that you're interested in. If they do, let's tailor a resume for that particular job. If they don't, let's still tailor a resume for that company. And then I will go to that career fair on your behalf. I'll go in a suit. I'll meet the HR person. I'll tell them who we are and establish, you know, a rapport with them, and then you know, tell them that I understand they have this job opening, or I have somebody you might be interested in, and I hand them the resume there. So now I've had a face-to-face with them, and they know who we are, and now they've got your resume. So that's some of the networking we'll do for folks. So I was at a career fair doing that for somebody else before this other teammate reached out to us. And there were a couple places he was interested in. Well, I saw this one company there that I knew was a company that could probably employ our teammates because they have a lot of military folks who work there, and a lot of the skill sets transfer. So I went to the HR desk, or to the desk that was set up, and I met the HR person and talked to her and explained who we were and got her card, and she got my card. And they had an employee there with them who was just there to talk to people. So he was an employee, not an HR person. And I got his name. He was prior military, and so we sort of connected, and we had a conversation. I got his name and his contact information. Fast forward, now my teammate and I are talking about this particular job,
Right.
and the job was the exact same job that the guy, the employee that I met
Yeah.
had. They have a few of those different jobs.
Right.
And so I said to our teammate, I said, hey, I met this guy who actually does that job at the company. Let me give him a call and see if he remembers me and see if he'll talk to you. So I did. I called him and he said, yes, I remember you. And I said, we have this, and I explained what was going on. Would you be willing to talk to him about the job and the company? He said, yeah, absolutely. So our teammate had 2 conversations with him. And then once we had the resume and cover letter ready and our teammate submitted it, then I sent an email with the resume to the HR person that I'd met, and then I followed with a phone call to give her a recommendation on him. Now, that's not to say that if we connect like that, that's going to be any but it draws attention to at least we've met them, and you know, we're just trying to get that resume highlighted. Well, he did end up getting an interview on the phone, and then they called him in. He flew in to do a face-to-face interview and get a tour of the organization. And then he came, we had him to our house that night before he left to, you know, have a cocktail and talk to him about it. Great guy. Well, he went back to his duty station now and hadn't heard back from the company, hadn't heard back. 2 weeks, you know, they kept saying, we're still doing this, whatever. So in the meantime, we're still looking for different jobs. So he put in for a job at BIW. And he is a Maine Maritime grad, and he had some connections up there and put in. And by the way, our interview prep guy, which I'll talk about in a second, does a tremendous job preparing folks for their interviews. So, so this teammate did, you know, very well in both interviews. We also hooked him up with a realtor who's on our board, and he and his wife were looking for a home. He got hired by BIW into a very good job. He's extremely happy. The other company called him about a week after he got hired by BIW, and he said, "I'm sorry, you know," and he and his wife found a home, and they purchased it, and they're moved in, and he's doing great at the company, and he has actually. When we have monthly volunteer information sessions, anybody who's interested in volunteering for Boots to Roots, I used to meet with everybody individually, and I just don't have the capacity to do that anymore. So we meet once a month with anybody who's interested, and I talk to them about Boots to Roots, and usually we have a board member there and a volunteer there, and this teammate dials in, and he gives a testimony so that they can hear about how we're helping folks.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so it's a real great success story. We also have recently, we have a gentleman we're working with in the Coast Guard. He's not back here yet. He just applied to the landing school for boat building, and his wife has a marketing degree, and our interview person just did prep for her because she's interviewing here. So it's a family deal. You know, when you transition, the military is about taking care of families, and so is Boots to Roots. So it's not just about that military member, but it's also the spouse, making sure that because it's a team, right? So if one wants to go to a school or one is going to be a stay-at-home parent, whatever, whichever one or both are looking to be employed, we're trying to help them equally.
That's so tedious. It's an individual thing. I mean, because not everyone is the same. They have different skills.
Absolutely.
And it's a very tedious thing you're doing.
You know, doing resumes is a pain for anybody.
Right.
You know, let's just be honest about it. It really is. But it's important. It's critical. And I tell you what, working with these folks, I get to know them all. And they're great people. And all you want to do is see them be successful because you know how much they have to contribute to the organizations here in Maine. And not only to the companies that they're going to work for, but also to the communities that they're going to live in. There's a culture of service in the military. And so folks, when they come back, they not only want to do a job that's meaningful, that they're really a part of a team, that they're a part of something bigger than themselves, but they also want to give back to the communities. So you're also looking at having some great mentors and great community partners coming back here. So
wow.
Can I get back to the interview prep?
Yeah, please.
I have to tell you this real quick. I have to talk this guy up because we are so blessed to have this person working with us. His name is Bruce McMillan.
Okay.
Bruce is a Navy veteran from the Vietnam era.
Oh, wow,
and
yeah.
he was, but he wasn't in Vietnam. He was on destroyers in the European theater. He was an officer for about 6 years, I think. Anyway, he separated from the Navy at that time, and then he went into business for a number of years, and then he owned his own consulting firm for, I think, over 20 years. Bruce was closing his consulting firm last year, and he reached out, or in the end of 16, and he reached out to the Maine Bureau of Veterans Services and sent them a note saying that he was about retiring, who he is, and that he was really looking to give back and wanted to give back to veterans in a capacity of his expertise, basically. Well, they referred him to us, thankfully.
Yeah.
And he and I met, and we hit it off right off the bat. And he has been doing mock interviews for a couple of the universities in the state for the last 12 years. He is an amazing guy. His consulting firm did executive mentorship for, like 100 companies or something. He is a very smart, engaging, wonderful resource that we have. And so what he does is he does interview prep for all of our teammates.
Oh my God.
And our goal is that once we have the resume done, or a resume done that's pretty decent, we hook the person up with Bruce, our interview. I call him the interview guy, but he's so much more than that.
He's more than that.
And Bruce does a lot of research ahead of time. And then he is on the phone with that person, usually for an hour to an hour and a half, doing all sorts of basic interview prep, what kind of questions to ask, how to research a company, how to tie your resume to the conversation, all sorts of stuff.
Valuable information.
Yeah, so he does that, and then that's the first session. And then when somebody actually gets an interview, he'll have another session with them specifically tailored to that company. He spends an inordinate amount of hours working with our teammates. He's also a personal mentor to me. He has spent literally hours helping me, letting me bounce things off of him. He also has been great with our teammates as well, not just the interview prep, but he's also provided extensive mentorship. Also, we have one teammate who retired after 30 years in the Army and was interested in consulting. And obviously, Bruce is an amazing resource for that. And our teammate, Bo, will tell you that his conversations with Bruce are what really convinced him that that's what he wanted to do. And now Bo Balkovich owns a franchise, a Crestcom leadership consulting franchise for Maine territory called Lead Forward, and he's doing a tremendous job. So yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So I can't say enough about Bruce.
No.
We are so blessed to have him as part of our team, and we have a small team, but we have really, really dedicated volunteers.
Wow. He sounds amazing.
Yeah, he is.
He really, really does.
He is.
God. And I mean, when you're on the phone with someone, getting all the information, just set them up for an interview with a company, there are certain criterias that you need to cover.
Yeah.
And that's a gift.
Yeah, well, he's trying to train me also and train our other volunteers as well. So he comes to all of our peer mentors. We have a training session once a month with peer mentors, so we can talk about what the different teammates are looking for. So if anybody, the networking thing is huge, and so the other day we had a training session, and I was talking about one person getting out of the Coast Guard who's planning to go full-time to school but wants to do a part-time job in a certain particular area. And one of our volunteers said, "Oh, I know a couple people at this particular company, so give me her resume." So, just kind of, passing on the words like that. But Bruce will come to those sessions so that he can hear our discussions, so that he can stay in the loop about who's coming up next, and so forth. But he also provides mentoring to us as we're interacting with people on, the tips for the interviews. I mean, even tips for references.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, how many people list somebody as a reference and then just list them as a reference and don't follow up with that person?
Right. Oh, I've had that happen.
There's so many more things to do to make sure that when that company calls your reference, you're a solid reference for that person, and that person knows what you're applying for, why you would be good in that position. I mean, that's the basic
Yeah.
stuff. But yeah, so he's done a tremendous job. It's things that seem so simple, but really the average person doesn't think about that every day.
No,
And
they
certainly
don't.
not folks getting
No.
out of the military, because we haven't had to do it before.
Right, exactly. And things have changed so much with the technology and everything that people need to kind of relearn what you have to do when you go into the workforce.
I'm learning every day.
Oh, I bet. I bet. So, I mean, you're talking, I mean, when we spoke the last time, you had volunteers helping.
Yep.
Do you still need volunteers?
Yes, we do.
Is there a specific type of volunteer?
Yes, we need a lot of volunteers now.
Okay.
So I need I need peer mentors. I need peer mentors who are dedicated to giving 2 to 5 hours a month.
Okay.
The peer mentors are the ones who are retired or separated in the last 5 years from active duty military,
right.
who are employed, who are settled,
Right.
and who really want to be a peer mentor for somebody who's coming back. And that entails talking on the phone basically and following up every couple weeks and hooking folks up with whatever contacts they need and so forth. It's being a buddy, it's being a peer mentor, it's being sort of a sponsor on the ground here in Maine, helping that person and their family transition, if you will. We have programs like that in active duty as well, and so this is sort of along those lines, but we really need peer mentors. And I meet with every single peer mentor that we have separately. We have 3 of them right now who are amazing, and they're wonderful, but they're volunteers, so I try not to give them too many people unless they tell me they're good with that.
Right.
And so what ends up happening is I'm the peer mentor for everybody else. So we need peer mentors. We are still building our board, but more important than just the board is we have committees where we're all volunteer right now still, and the committees allow us to really think through some things. We have a development committee, we have a communications committee. The communications committee, we have 2 of our board members are running that, and they're doing all of our Facebook, all of our website. They're putting together our surveys right now for our evaluation. They're doing a tremendous amount. And then our program committee is I'm the chair of the program committee. The program committee is really our program, and how do we make things better and do things, and I need brain power because I'm so tied up in everything else right now as we're building. Eventually we'll get a hired employee, that's our goal, but right now, so having people on that committee to meet once a month and sort of help shape the program and think through what's working, what's not working, what can we be more efficient at, what can we do better, what don't we need to do, whatever, to make sure that we're really reaching our goals. And then so that's the committee piece. I need folks to help with mock interviews if they've got experience doing that. I need help with resumes. I really need folks who understand military. I've got a volunteer right now who does sort of our final reviews, which is wonderful. She's civilian, and she said, I don't know any military stuff, but she's a perfect person. When we think we have a good product, we send it to her with the job description, so that if she understands and it makes sense to her, she does a final grammar and formatting, all that kind of. She's wonderful, but that's really a great thing. So I could use 1 or 2 more of those folks. But really, I need folks who are doing what I'm doing right now as well, which is spending a lot of time asking questions, going through the resume, making edits, connecting with people, having them go back, and getting them used to how to translate the military terminology and so forth into what civilians are looking for on the actual job description. So the resume helpers who have military experience, interview prep, committee members, the peer mentors, so we need everybody. And we are going to have a large fundraising event We are planning right now tentatively for June of 2019. I know that seems far off,
Yeah, it
but this
does.
is a huge event that we are hope to pull off, and so I'm going to need a lot of volunteers. We'll be sending more out on Facebook and so
Yeah.
forth about what we're looking for there. But folks who like to plan events or like to, take part in doing things like that, folks who are organized, folks who want to, that will be something that we're definitely looking for, and that's really not tied into doing our program. That's really tied into planning the event.
Yeah.
And so that's a sort of a different kind of volunteer that we're looking for.
Sure.
But we'll need a commitment for somebody who's going to volunteer for that for almost a year and a half.
Yeah.
But it won't be an hour. It won't be like this many hours every month. There'll probably be a couple months in there where it'll be a little bit more intense.
Yeah,
And then a
sure.
couple months where there's not too much to do. So I know we need a lot of help.
You need a lot. Now, you said once a month you have a meeting.
A few meetings.
A few meetings. Where everybody gets together and say, how can we handle this or that? If
Yeah.
people would want to volunteer and just sit in on a meeting.
Yeah, it depends on what they want to
they do
volunteer
it?
for. I would recommend that folks come to our volunteer information session first, because
right.
that's where I talk about the Boots to Roots program.
Yeah.
We talk about the different volunteer positions and the requirements, and then we have a board member there, another volunteer there that they can ask questions to, and then that's when we have one of our teammates call in and give kind of a testimony. So we do that monthly. Our next one is going to be on March 8th. From 4:30 to 5:30 at our office on 428 4th Street, 3rd floor in Portland. And so that's what I would recommend folks come to first, is that
Okay.
volunteer information session. We'll have that monthly.
That would be
and
great
we'll
for you to
post
come
that on
to.
Facebook. Yeah.
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 I mean, because at least you can sit there and ask your questions and
Yeah.
find out where there is a good fit
Right.
for that person.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's the reason for it too. Is
Yeah.
give them time to listen, kind of digest it, see what's out there, see what they might be a good fit for, and they
Right.
can take some time and then get back with me on that. And so, why do we need all this help? We need all this help because the word is really getting out.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many teammates we had when you and I first
Not that
talked.
many.
We have 35 now.
I'm like, you didn't have that many.
Yeah, we have 35 now. Of those 35, 16 are back in Maine already. Of those 16, 14 are hired, and 80% of them were hired well within 2 months of getting here, which is our goal. The other two, one started a master's program in teaching and then decided that there were some things going on in his family that he had to stop doing that for a
Yeah.
while. So now he's looking for a job. So that is what slowed down that. And then another guy came back who has a 100% disability rating from the VA, and so he's got some medical things he needs to take care of before he starts applying. But we're working with a lot of folks, and everybody else is still on active duty, coming back sometime in the next 9 months. And we're working with folks from every service, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and Coast Guard, and everything from a full bird colonel who's been in 30 years down to an E4, which is a person who's been in for maybe 4 years, and everything in between. So yeah, it's going very well, and these folks are doing real well. And again, our goals are, that they be hired within 2 months of separating. One of the reasons for that, and we're not a placement
Yeah.
friend, I can't guarantee that, but that's the
Yeah,
goal. That's the
that's the
goal
goal.
of all the prior preparation, right? So they can hit the ground running.
Yeah.
There, on active duty in the military, you get 30 days of leave per year.
Yeah.
And you can save that up to 60 days. So you can let it roll over a year. A lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people try to save up 60 days. So at the end of their time, it's called terminal leave now, where they can leave the job early, and now they have this terminal leave for 60
Yeah.
days, which allows them some flexibility and looking for a house and all that kind of stuff. And so when I retired from the military, my official retirement date was 1 September, but I came to Maine in July.
Yeah.
But from July to September, I was still getting a full active duty paycheck.
Right.
So that's part of the reason that we have the 2 months, because a lot of people have 30 to 60 days of leave, so they're still getting that pay for 1 to 2 months.
Right.
So we really want to make sure that people are maintaining that financial stability. And so if they can get employed within 2 months, the chance of them maintaining financial stability and gaining it quickly when they get here is pretty high. There's a report out there that I read. It's a 2015 Veterans Affairs or Veterans Administration report. And there's a thing called a UCX rate, which I had no idea what that was, but UCX is unemployment compensation for ex-military. That's what it is. So the UCX rate is the amount of time that people or the rate at which people are using, veterans are using their unemployment benefit. So you can get up to 26 weeks, I think it is, of unemployment. That's what you're entitled to do if you apply for that. This report shows from 1988 to 2013. Okay, and that report was a 2015 report, and all that time, I'm assuming things haven't changed after that, but from 1988 to 2013, Maine has been #1 in the nation every year, #1 for the veterans using unemployment the longest amount of time than any other state.
Wow.
And I'm sure there's a lot of reasons for that.
Yeah, sure.
But that's over, if you add up that time, that's over $20 million going into that. And let alone when people start using unemployment, it's a great benefit to have.
Sure.
But a lot of people try not to use it because number one, they don't want to say that they're on unemployment. They don't want to have to rely on that. And if they do, a lot of times they'll feel really bad about it.
Sure.
And that sort of doesn't help with self-esteem sometimes.
Right.
So anyway, so that's sort of a tangential thing is, that folks wouldn't have to collect unemployment. And so far out of all our folks, only one of them has collected unemployment. He got hired in 4 months. He came out after 4 years. Again, there's no guarantees here, but those are our goals. And we've put together surveys now that we're going to start providing surveys when someone first reaches out to us once they get hired and then once they've been employed for a year and gather some of that background. And it'll measure financial stability. It'll also measure whether our goals are being met and then what the teammates are really thinking about what we're doing, how we can improve, and so forth.
Breaking this down for the audience is really important. I mean, because at least they understand what you're doing, what the goal is, and you're very, very proactive with every team person you have. You're very proactive.
Well, it's a two-way street. We've had a couple teammates who haven't responded. We follow up, and at one point I told the volunteers, I said, look, we can only do so much. So, they know what the program is. So there's been a couple who, haven't responded back, and that's fine. That happens. But the folks that are pulling their weight, and we're working together, and they're being very successful, and they're very appreciative. And we've got some good feedback, and we'll be putting some new testimonials on our website shortly. We hope to put a video together this year at some point as well. But yeah, and so we also figured out, so our goal is, I told you how busy we are.
Yes.
And we really need a program manager. And so our goal is, we're working on a development plan right now to try to hire somebody or be ready to hire somebody by the end of 2019 or beginning of 2020 for program manager. So our development efforts are leaning towards that. And yes, we need financial support.
I was just going to bring that up.
Absolutely, we do.
I was going to bring that up.
We have a plan. We're working on a development plan, and again, that is our goal. We really need a program manager, especially as we start getting more people. As the word gets out more and we get more people, working with us. It costs approximately, we worked out the numbers, approximately $2,500 per teammate from if they reach out to us a year out, from when we start working with them to when they've been employed for a year.
Right.
And most of that is time. It's a lot of time. If you look at Bruce Miller, and Bruce's volunteerism doesn't go into that calculation.
Right.
What goes into that calculation is the cost of the program manager plus the other costs that are associated with administering the program. But if we were to pay Bruce for his services,
oh my,
it would have, tripled or 6 digits probably by now.
Yeah.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily.
Well, you have an office.
We do.
You have an overhead.
Not much though.
Oh, that's good. I mean, I'm thinking electric phones.
No, everything is included in the office. Our phone is just a cell phone, and it's
Okay.
$25 a month.
All right. This is the way you cut down your overhead.
Yeah.
But for example, if somebody wants to donate,
Yes.
what do they do?
They can reach out to us online and donate online through PayPal. They can send a check. They can give me a call, and I would love to talk with them and sit down with them and explain exactly where their investment is going to go, and give them feedback as well. We have an annual report we're working on right now, which is just a one-pager. It's our second one, but to just outline the goals and show the results so far. So yeah, I mean, I really emphasize if someone wants to donate to us, please donate to us. We can really use the funding. Like I said, that's the goal. It's everything's out there and transparent. Our budget's extremely transparent as well.
That's good.
But we need somebody. We need to hire somebody. And again, based on our timeline and based on what we think we can do, our target right now is the end of 19, beginning of 20. But I'm happy to talk to anybody about it.
All right, do you hear that out there? Call Jen or go on PayPal. I mean, this is a program that is going to go on for years.
I hope so.
It's going to go on, I mean...
Well, I hope it wouldn't have to, but
I know, but the reality of it
is
it's going to go on for years because people are going to need help who are coming home from overseas, and your people you have right now sound amazing.
Well, one of the great things about Boots to Roots is, somebody asked me the other day, or it was Tori Ryden asked me, she said, what's the greatest compliment that you've gotten? And I said, the greatest compliment that we get is when somebody says they want to give back who has been through we haven't had anyone all the way through the program yet, because our first person who will be hired or will be in his job for a year is April. So we're coming up on that milestone of the first teammate being employed for a year is April, and then there's a couple more in May. But a large majority of our teammates have told us that they want to give back to Boots to Roots when they get settled. So that's kind of the goal, is that our peer mentors will eventually, our working with teammates will feed our peer mentor pipeline. Because now those are guys not only who have, guys and gals who not only recently transitioned or separated, and separated or retired, but that they've been through the Boots to Roots program as a teammate as well. And so that's, unfortunately, it's going to take a little while for us to get to the point where we have some of those guys coming back, because we really want them to be employed for a year, get settled, and be ready to, to start giving back.
That's great, because with the time that you've put in and everybody within the office and all the detail that goes into this, the resume, the do's and don'ts when you're in front of a possible employer, that's all very important. And offering that gives them a leg up.
So is networking etiquette.
Oh, networking etiquette is great. That's what you have to do. And in today, you have your Facebook and all those other media outlets that you can get your word out there pretty quickly. Right. Which I think is amazing.
It is, as long as we have it out the right way.
Right. You have to have it out there the right way. So, I love the fact that you came in here again, because you're
appreciate it.
Well, you're like a family member to us. And I always want to know what's going on. Yeah. I want to know where you're at with things. I want to know what you need, so the audience who are there watching the show think, oh, maybe I'll volunteer, or maybe I'll call. I wasn't there, the Vietnam War. My father was in that. And I remember that more from him being over there in Vietnam, and the 25th Infantry Division in Honolulu, and the book they came out with, what was it, Tropical Thunder, which I have a copy of. I grew up with that. So to hear somebody that came from the Vietnam War, who's now involved with you and helping, I mean, everyone else, of course, they're amazing, but knowing about what his age would be is amazing.
Yeah, he's phenomenal.
And
They all are.
they all
Yeah.
are. But when I heard that, that was like, ding,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah,
So I always like to find out what's going on, where you're at today,
absolutely.
letting people know that you're there, you're working, you need help and volunteers and donation.
Well, we appreciate it. I mean, we've come a long way in a very short
You have.
period, but we have a long way to go.
Oh, yeah.
And once we get a program manager, that will tremendously help us streamline some of the program processes. And there's a number of areas that I have to focus right now, to include in the trenches to senior serious mentoring, or not mentoring, but networking and relationship building, and which is great. But at the end of the day, right now, when push comes to shove, it's our teammates who come first. And so that what happens is that's fine. It just, the organizational development just takes a little bit more time.
Sure.
And somebody asked me one time, "Oh, are you looking to expand to other states?" And all this? I said, "No, we are looking to do what we're doing here because there's a need in the state of Maine." It's tough to get tied in a lot of places come out of service, but it's especially tough to get tied in Maine. It's a small community, and any way that we can help with that networking ahead of time is only going to help give somebody a little bit of leg up. And so we exist because we're filling a need, we're filling a gap. And so, no, we're not existing to start expanding and having all these grandiose schemes. We want to do what we're doing. We want to be successful. We want the teammates to be successful. And we think that if we can meet these goals, then that's what that will translate into, is the teammates' success and ultimately success for Maine.
Exactly. And I mean, sometimes when you come home from overseas, you're just coming into a different world.
Not just overseas, but just any other base.
I mean, you're coming in and to adjust and get back to the norm, so to speak. It's difficult.
It's different.
So thank goodness you're there.
It's different.
It's very different, I'm sure.
But it's wonderful.
I know.
I transitioned, 2.5 years now.
Has it been that long?
It has been, yeah. And we love it here. Absolutely love it.
Oh,
here.
I love it too.
And I want other people to love it here and to be successful,
Yeah.
and to community reintegration. And speaking of community integration, I have to mention one other thing.
Go right ahead.
I've had a couple of people reach out to me and say, I'm interested in volunteering, but I'm not a veteran. There is only one volunteer position of any of the volunteers that we require to be a veteran, and that's the peer mentor, for obvious reasons. But everybody else, it doesn't matter whether you don't even know how to spell military.
Right.
In fact, our board, in our bylaws, it specifically states that our board will never consist of more than 50% veterans. In fact, our board right now is 7 members with 3 potential, sort of on the waiting in the sidelines. But of our board members right now, only 1 is a veteran, and he's our founder. So it's really important for us to have a mix of folks who have military experience and folks who don't have military experience on the board, because this is really a community integration process. This is really a community integration organization more than a veterans organization, because we're working with folks who are active duty transitioning into Maine. They're soon to be veterans, but the majority of the heavy lifting work we're doing with them is while they're still on active duty. So it's really where we're working with them on transition to help them integrate and be successful doing that. And so that's why it's important for us to have a great diverse mix of folks working together to educate each other, so we can do this thing the best we can.
I'm glad you clarified that, because I was sitting here thinking, and I thought, oh, well, it has to be military background. It doesn't. I mean, everybody has a tool. They have a gift.
Absolutely.
And whatever it may be, come in to a meeting, talk with Jen, find out where you fit. You're giving back to the community.
Our board president, John Manganello, is our co-founder.
Okay.
And he's an amazing guy. And he doesn't have any military background. I have learned so much from him. He is a dynamic leader, and he is passionate about what we do.
Wow.
And yeah, and I am grateful that he's the president and the co-founder. And I'm grateful for all the input of the folks who weren't in the military. Because they've been in the civilian world, I haven't.
Right, exactly.
And so it's a great, and then we the veterans educate our other volunteers and board members and so forth who don't have military experience to understand a little bit deeper about what folks are going through or what they've gone through in the military, about how families react and so forth. So it's a great way to educate each other, and it really makes our team stronger.
That's great. That's great. We're running out of time. It goes so fast. I love having you on the show, Jen.
Thanks, Tony. I really appreciate it.
I really do, and I really want to really get the word out there to everyone as often as we can.
I appreciate that.
Letting everyone know you're there, you were here a year ago, you're here again. They continue to grow. They continue to become a force in helping people. So I want to thank you again.
Thanks, Tony. I appreciate it.
You'll come back again.
On behalf of the whole Boosters team, we thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And we have dinner plans next week.
Yes, we do.
We're going to dinner. Girls' night out. So thank you again.
Thank you, Tony.
And I want to thank everybody for watching our show today. Write in, call in, do whatever you need. But take the time to think about this, and if you think, gee, I don't have time, I'm retired, think about helping others and giving back. So again, I want to thank you for watching, and we'll see you very soon. Bye-bye.